Welcome back to the shop. You may know that we've given ourselves a bit of a design challenge or build challenge to build one piece of furniture a quarter inspired by something that we've seen in a TV show or movie. This is a bench from a scene in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and I'm going to start the project in my shop, and then I'll bring the parts over to Green Street Joinery and we'll take it from there. These boards are not quarter sawn, but they're reclaimed white oak. They're from the real antique wood mill. Those are my friends in Irvington, New Jersey. They take the barns down and mill the wood, and this is what you get. Now this board, all three of these boards are in pretty rough shape, so it's going to take a little doing to get them ready to build something with. They're leftover boards from the desk I built just about a year ago. So I'll get started by rough cutting these boards to length, then running them through the joiner, and then eventually gluing a few of them up to make the parts for the bench. I'm planning to make the seat for the bench out of these two boards. This is a bit of an issue. I'm not going to tell Jeff and Rob about this, so it'll be funny to see the reaction when I bring the parts over. I need 12 inches, and I'm at 14, but obviously I've got some issues here. So I'll go ahead and cross-cut these, probably 2 inches heavy, because I really can't use this part of the board because there's a big bend in the board right here. I might be able to use this area for a leg and maybe this area for a leg. We'll see what happens. Maybe fill these with epoxy. But I guess the first step is to go ahead and cross-cut both of these boards a little heavy. Looks like I'm pretty close to being able to build the entire bench with these reclaimed white oak boards if we make a small design decision or small design change. So I've got enough material for the seat, I've got enough material for the legs, there's a brace underneath the legs, and then there's an apron. If we change the apron measurement a little bit, then I can use this board. Right now all the boards measure a heavy 1 inch. I want them to measure a heavy 3/4 of an inch. So I'll run all these boards through the thickness planer, including this board, and we'll either use this board like it is, or maybe we can add to it when I bring the boards over to Jeff and Rob. After planing down the boards, they turned out pretty nice. This is going to be the top of the bench. I'll join these boards with dominoes and then they'll get cut to size later. The end of the board, the wide board that I was a little concerned I couldn't get flat, especially the one with these knots here. This board's really nice and flat now. You can hear the flatness of it. I am going to add two boards, I guess you could call these, or two pieces of wood to the sides of the legs to make them a little bit wider, to make the bench a little bit more stable. And then maybe we'll add some kind of decorative element here, maybe just tapering them, maybe starting at 3/4 so the apron can rest on top of it and kind of include it all into the design. And I just talked with Rob. We decided to just rip the apron at 4.5, and that way the entire bench can be made out of the reclaimed white oak.
Welcome back to the shop. I'm Jeff from Today's Craftsman, and John just came by with a pile of parts. This is for the One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest bench. I keep wanting to call it a stool for some reason. Reminds me of like a milking stool almost. But these are the parts. This is the first time seeing them in person. I've seen some pictures and whatnot. Pop this open, see what we got, see if I can figure out what's what. We've got our drawing here, and I think you made some alterations, right? So I'm guessing these are the aprons. Got our little, I don't know what you would call these things, these parts here. So the aprons are here, got those. Got the legs. Some cool material. And the top. So we've got some sizing and sanding to do. Right? Cut some tapers here.
I did the tapers.
Okay.
Figured,
oh yeah, it's gonna sit. Got it. That's even better.
Yeah, it just makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
We can move along. Flip that board over. You'll
This
see.
one?
I don't know how we're going to deal with that. Because that's the bottom.
We're gonna fill that with green epoxy. Or red. You could see where there were some powder post beetles in there.
So I'm thinking run everything through the drum sander and just take a little bit off each side, except for maybe the apron, because the apron fits perfectly
In
right here. Yeah. And then just cut it to size and start countersinking and screwing it together.
Cool. Sounds good. We're here at the drum sander. Before we do any cutting or assembling of these parts, we're going to run them through this machine, just take off any of this errant glue and flush everything up a little bit. These are pretty short, so we'll run this through cross grain. We're going to paint this piece, so that's not a big deal. I have 100 grit, I believe, on here. We can tension our belt, turn on dust collection, start running them through. Just long enough. John and I just got all of this sanded. You can see, cleaned up really nice. And only 3 of these parts need to be cut right now, those being the top and these little side apron pieces. So we're going to cut the top to size, which we have at 36 long and 12 wide.
So what I would do is keep the top as wide as you can.
Okay.
I think it might even be clean. Take a look at the edges, give it a measurement, and if you're happy with that width, then let's just keep it that width.
Yeah, it was...
12 seems a little narrow.
It definitely seemed to have some real funky dimensions, like looking at, we got 12 and 13. Yeah.
So then I think it's good. It just needs to be cut to length. And you're going to have to maybe deal with this issue here the best way possible.
Yeah. I think if we go... It might give it some character, or we could just lop it off.
I would lop it off. Go 36 and 3/8 maybe, and then just clean up the other side.
What do we have on these?
34. Those are
Okay.
the measurements.
Yep.
So
Cool. All right, so let's see. We're keeping the width, and we're just going to cross cut. Everything is all sized up. We're thinking about putting a chamfer on these edges to get rid of this little remnants of a knot, I think, that were there. So I'll put some chamfers on these, but the last cutting that we need to do is put the little angle on these aprons, as you can see on the drawing here. So we'll take these over to the miter saw and do that there. You could do it on the table saw, but when I have this set square, I like to leave it square as much as possible. So we'll jump over to the miter saw. If we had a lot of pieces like this to cut, I would probably set up a stop block, but in this instance, this is a pretty rustic piece of furniture that we're building anyway. I'm gonna measure down from the top our 2 inches and make a mark on both ends, and then I'm just gonna cut a 45. And I'll probably cut both at the same time. And I like to actually put a mark like this when I'm gonna cut. That way I don't get confused. Before we assemble, we're gonna put a little chamfer on this bottom edge here of these side aprons, just so that it's not such a stark corner, and it's, you know, it's pretty sharp just at 90. So quick and quiet, let's use a block plane for that. We'll pick out what is best. So we wanna hide this, you know, up against the leg. So we're gonna do this edge, and we'll hide these beetle holes on the back. So we'll do this edge here. What are you thinking? How big of a chamfer?
It'd go like a quarter.
Quarter inch.
I think that looks good. Definitely. Softens it up, still rustic.
Yeah. To get some layout lines on these aprons, and we'll use some glue and some clamps to hold this all together temporarily. Then we're going to drill and countersink some holes that later I think John's going to peg with some square pegs in the shop. So we'll get it all laid out and screwed together. I think this side out, right?
Yeah, why not?
Right, it's all clamped up. We're hitting our lines, so probably easiest to screw it together while it's standing up. What I'll do now is pull the clamps off. I want to get one more screw here, but I'll flip this over on its side and make my life a little bit easier. So much easier to screw down like this rather than sideways. Looking good. Can put these on, so these will go in here. And we'll just put some glue and run a couple screws through. I'll get some comments about my tiny hammer. The top is all clamped. I laid out some holes, and we'll do the same thing that we did on the aprons. We're going to drill and countersink for some screws that will be plugged later on. That's the ball game. I think it looks nice.
I like it.
Feels sturdy.
I'm thinking maybe taking the hand plane. I'll bring this back to my shop, soften a bunch of the edges.
Yep.
Maybe painting it white, or some of it white, sanding through the paint.
I like maybe oil finish on the top and white milk paint on the bottom, or just paint that's a little bit distressed.
Sure. And anybody in the comments wants to leave their input, we're definitely welcome to, or you're welcome to, and we'll check it out. But I like the rustic look of it. I think it's kind of would look good in a nice shabby chic house.
Yeah. Well, we talked about it a couple times, that sort of juxtaposition of like a modern house that's like everything like really clean, white walls, maybe like modern furniture, slab cabinets, and then like something like this, like up against the wall.
Definitely. I like it. Plus I like the connection to the movie.
Yeah.
You know, it's a story piece. It may be a conversation piece. So then the plan is I'll bring this back, fill the holes either with round plugs or square pegs, soften up the edges a little bit, and have it finished by this time next week.
Yeah, then we'll put it for sale on the website, maybe like $10,000-$12,000.
That sounds good to me. So you can support the channel with $10,000 or $12,000.
Yeah, I mean,
buying this rustic wood bench.
We'll sign the inside here.
Wood from an old barn in New Jersey. That actually came from the old barn that the guys at Real Antique Wood Mill took down.
Yeah, that's cool. I had someone reach out when they saw your story and they said, I need a table made out of like material like that.
Can you do that?
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Can you get the job? Because Anthony's great over at Real Antique Wood. We can go down there and meet him.
Yeah, it's a designer we work with, so.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. All right, you want to wrap this one up?
Yeah. Hope you enjoyed watching the build. Pretty simple on the first one. We're still looking for suggestions on what you want us to build down the road. So if you have any comments about what we're building now or what you'd like to see in the future, leave them down below. Tell a friend about the channel, and we'll see you next week.
And we will have plans up on the Today's Craftsman website probably by this time next week for this bench.